All right, so we are back joined with Gabe and Mia today. Again, for everybody listening in and tuning in, Gabe, do you mind sharing your name, the sport that you play, and the school and university that you currently attend?
Yeah, my name's Gabe Medina. I'm a Division I track and field athlete at the University of Oklahoma.
How has your journey as a student athlete shaped you personally and athletically?
Personally, I mean, you kind of put a lot into it, and that's one thing I like about the sport is that you reap what you sow. But as an athlete, it's taught me a lot of just about just having to be diligent and you take a lot of losses in it, but it makes all those wins feel so much more better when you do get them on the track, off the track. It's always been a great learning lesson.
Juggling the classroom as well as being an athlete was something that I really had to learn and take a lot more serious, especially during that transition from high school to college, right? A lot more of that stuff is pretty serious. You're actually paying for your classes versus just going to the free high school. That was a big hurdle for me to be able to learn that, balance that, and make sure that, I was still excelling on the field, but also taking, the classroom, managing that as well. But Gabe, for you, how have you been able to, really manage and prioritize, your efforts within the classroom as well as your, efforts within, being an athlete, participating in practice and having those, good performances on the track as well?
It definitely takes a community. Like I know throughout high school and even like some of my undergrad years, I wasn't the most organized. So, just utilizing the resources that you have at your disposal, like that, my old previous school, there wasn't many of that compared to like being at a Power 5 conference school like OU. So just like utilizing those academic athletic resources are huge. Being honest and transparent, not only with yourself, but just like the staff that you work with, that just it goes a long way in the process of that. But getting organized was definitely just a tough process at times. Like I never, I think my mom was always telling me to get a journal. I never really just did, and then I finally got one. So it just kind of makes like little things like that organized, or just even using like my notes app if I need to. So just staying on top of those little things.
Yeah, like I know how important it is to be able to manage everything. And I myself use my notes and my planner consistently every single day since it
Mhm.
keeps me on track. But I know for us athletes, we don't really get all the resources we need from outside people, such as mental health counselors. So, how important do you believe that mental health and performance plays a role in the success of athletes?
I won't say it's everything, but I'll say it's like a solid like 80%. It's just such an underlooked thing because I feel like as athletes we're told to like always be tough, physically and mentally, like to don't there's a lot that you take in with you and you're not supposed to like really express it. But mental health is such a important aspect because as you see, like it affects your performance, it affects like even the after performances, like your mood and all that other stuff. It's a significant part, and I'm very fortunate to have had good mental health counselors in the past and in the present now, just helping me with life and with running and my journey in that.
For you, Gabe, I know us as athletes, we have a lot of those challenges. Some of us, it's easy to see, right? There's a cast on our arm. There's, a certain, they can see us in the on crutches because we hurt our leg, things like that. But for you, what have those challenges been and those hurdles been during your career, and how have you overcame those?
I mean, I've never had like something that people consider like some super long-term crazy. I've never torn my ACL, like fingers crossed, but that's never happened to me. I've been lucky to have injuries that can linger and just, you need to be really patient with it, a lot of rehabbing to get that muscle group stronger. Like the first real injury I say I had was like my junior year of high school, and it was off of coming off a major like athletic high. Like I won like the mile and the 2 mile and like in our regional championship, then went to states to race against one of the best guys in the state. And just like halfway through, my like lower back just like felt completely off. I still made it to all states, but then when I went to all states, I got dead last. Like it was a really significant blow to like everything. And I just ended up shutting myself out for like a month from like anything team activity related, but I did a lot of rehab. And I think that was like the first significant moment where I was like, yeah, this is, you got to look out for yourself, your body. And, it does get better because the next year is my senior year and I made it to the New Balance Nationals. I was one of the first people from my high school to do that. I was third in New England, third in Massachusetts, in indoor track. And then even in cross country, that cross country season was great too. So, it really it was a wake up call, but it was a good one of those wake up calls you're like never gonna forget.
And I totally understand the whole like injury thing. Like even for myself, like in dance, I haven't had like any sort of big injury, but I know as I was graduating recently, I did injure my back right before like a big performance, and that definitely screwed up the way that I performed, but it only just makes you stronger going forward. And as you mentioned, you easily overcame that and that you were able to succeed later on. And so was there somebody who was like your primary outlet or support system while you were going through this?
During this was like the first of probably three like injuries I consider were like significant. This one was actually pretty much just me. Like it took some kind of some hard lessons learned from like just in a good way, like with my high school coaches at the time, because they obviously wanted to see me back, and I think I was just taking too much time with it because I was wallowing in a lot of self-pity after doing some rehab. But no, that was I'd say like I'd have to give myself some credit for that one. That was mostly me.
When you look at the resources on campus, sometimes, it depends on schools, right? When I went to a JUCO, we had certain resources that we didn't have at the NAI school. And I get that that's like the bottom of the barrel compared to Oklahoma University, right? And all the stuff that you guys are probably surrounded by. But sometimes, we have individuals on campus who are really proactive. They come out, they approach the team, they're talking to the coach, they're talking to the players about how they can be there to benefit them, be a resource, all of that. Other times, you're talking with people and you don't even know that they're a resource until basically the last week of school. And you're like, well, what? Like, they were there the whole entire time. Like, I wish I knew about that. And so when we talk about, sports psychologists, the mental performance coaches, things like that, I know that, briefly beforehand when we were, shortly talking about that, you had brought that up and mentioned it, but is that something that was more set up from, a team standpoint? Is that something that you specifically reached out about? How did that kind of work, and how did that impact your journey as a student athlete at Oklahoma?
Yeah, at OU, because we had that at my previous school, but it just like it never really stuck. They kind of had a hard time keeping a position for that, so I didn't really have too much access to it until like my spring of my senior year. So, and then in between, like I hadn't seen my therapist I saw when I was a child for many years. But at OU, it's pushed by like the athletics office. There's a department they have called pros, and I always forget the acronym of what it actually means, but it's sports psychologists there. And all of them have been, I've heard nothing but great things from them. It's kind of, when I got there though, I was very proactive about reaching out to them just from the start because I knew being away from home, the like competition jump and just everything that I was doing, it was a complete jump from where I was at originally. So I was definitely proactive in that aspect.
And outside of like the whole like mental health and getting all those resources, I know with like any sport, you always have that like memory in your mind about either a good or a bad memory. But a lot of times we've heard people mention like teammates and how they always bond through their sport. Is there anything in particular, either like a memory or two that you remember while working out and being an athlete at OU?
Yeah, I think yeah, this past fall, it was one of the because I mean I'll just be really transparent. This past fall mentally was probably one of the hardest stretches of my life. I won't need to get into all the specifics with that, but just waking up in the morning, getting ready to train. We would always practice, especially in the like when it was right after the summer into the fall. We were still practicing like 6:30 in the morning, and like nobody wants to get up and run first thing in the morning. But pulling up to the locker room and just seeing the guys that I got to run with, and we would just find nonsense to laugh at just to kill the time on our like long, easy runs. Those are something I'm always going to cherish forever.
I can totally attest to that to this day. I still cherish a lot of memories that I've made in the locker room with, guys that, I had no idea who they even were going into college. Next thing you know, we shared those memories and still talk about it to this day. But one thing that really changed for me, as I started to grow up as an athlete was my definition of success over time. When I was in high school, it was probably the most selfish of views, right? It was, hey, how do I achieve, certain things for myself? How do I make myself the best player? And it was almost a I before the team in a sense. It sounds horrible to say, but then as I started going into college, it was like, okay, how can I help the team win, right? How can we put all of the success into the team, to the record, and to achieving all these goals as a whole. And so again, over time, that definition really changed for myself in the way that I truly viewed success as an athlete. But for you, Gabe, how and if that, definition changed for yourself? What did it start out as, and ultimately what did it change as, to, current day Gabe?
It was kind of a funny like roller coaster effect to that because when I first started with running, like it took a while for me to kind of get my feet on the ground, and then like after my freshman year was when I realized like okay, I can like seriously do this. And that year we were in a really good position to win the Western Mass like regional championship for first time ever. When we did that, it was a good year. I led my team, but like it was something I recognized like cross country is a team more of a team sport compared to track. But yeah, like I realized like okay, you're gonna have to but you the best way, it's kind of funny to try and compare it to baseball because I know obviously you need like all the guys to do really well collectively. But with running, like you need to, if you do your best and kind of put yourself first, you're helping the team no matter what. But yeah, just having that mentality of just like team first was something I had in high school in those earlier years. And then when it was more so my senior year, it was kind of just trying to prep myself, do what I had to do to get myself ready. Then I went to AIC. That was my first run for undergrad, and that was just a disaster with COVID and whatnot. But it was kind of a I took a back seat because the guys that come into their like college and high school, like I wish people were more prepared. Like high school kids are more prepared for that wake up call because you're going from being the oldest to being the youngest, sometimes by a long shot, because you have international recruits, you have JUCO recruits, you have people that redshirted, and then everybody else, like, just you have regular sophomore, junior, seniors that are there. So I got used to it with a bunch of older guys on my team, and I like love them to death. Still some great friends of mine, but just being able to be okay with like, okay, I'm still getting myself better. I may not be the top of the top, but I helped them. We helped each other win collectively, which is automatically the most important goal to me.
Kind of as we transition here, you know, I always looking back, I was like, man, like I wish that I had advice from somebody in my shoes 5 years ago, things like that, right? Like I wish that when I was in high school, I could listen to what a college baseball player, would have wanted to have heard when he was a junior, senior in high school, so that he was more prepared and felt better about maybe all the things that were going on. Maybe there was a letdown, something along those lines. But for you, Gabe, if you had to talk to a class of high schoolers, even younger athletes as well, and you had to give them a couple pieces of advice to better prepare themselves kind of for that transition into college, what would that be?
Well, first of all, don't slack academically your junior year. That's one thing that kind of shot me in the foot. But, just being able to like really sit down with yourself. I know you have a lot going on in high school with getting ready for college, and everyone's family situation is different, personal life situations are different, but when you have the time to, and it's obviously not like a one day thing, be real with yourself and like saying like, I like this sport. Am I in love with this sport enough to carry it on into college? Because that's a real commitment that, you kind of just like see the flash to it and all the other stuff, like all that excess stuff to it. But it's, you got to make that real adult decision for the first, probably one of the real like adult decisions they have to make it like as a 17, 18-year-old. Do I want to carry on with this? Or do I want to just try into the workforce or just get my undergrad, do what I got to do afterwards? So really make that decision first. That's something I've told some of the younger guys at my high school because I was like while I'm here, like I've been home for the past 2.5 weeks. I ran with my high school coach and some of the young guys, and just it's good to like get that conversation with them because I know he is having it, but just to hear it from someone that's been there and like relatively not that long ago, it's just I know it's easier for them to understand a little bit compared to when adults just straight telling it to you.
Definitely. And I think that, again, being able to hear it from somebody who's actually experiencing it right now means
Mhm.
so much more, right? Somebody who's actually, participating as a student athlete at Oklahoma University, that means so much more to, these younger, high school age student athletes versus, a coach or somebody who might be, hey, I didn't necessarily, participate in that sport, but I've just really been passionate about it. And here's kind of my thoughts, my advice. So coming from somebody like yourself, that's always huge, super inspirational, and very impactful for a lot of the athletes listening into this. But again, Gabe, in closing here, I can't thank you enough for, participating and sharing, more of your journey, all the awesome stuff that you've accomplished so far and that you're going to continue to accomplish at Oklahoma. Really looking forward to continuing to watch your journey as a student athlete unfold and all the awesome stuff that you accomplish. For everybody listening and tuning in, we are going to highlight, a bunch of Gabe's social media handles down below. So make sure to reach out, go give him a follow his journey, follow all the stuff that he's got going on, in his athletic life, personal life, all that good stuff. And then other than that, we will see you guys in the next one.